OpenAI's new macOS app just made 73% of coding assistants obsolete overnight, and that's their own internal benchmark.
Wait, are you saying this replaces tools like Cursor and Copilot entirely? So we're breaking down the agentic features, how it stacks against Claude Code, and what GPT 5.2 Codex actually delivers?
By minute 4, you'll know if it's worth the switch. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Platform Engineering Playbook Daily Podcast. Today's news and a deep dive to help you stay ahead in platform engineering.
Today, we're diving into OpenAI launches new macOS app for agentic coding.
Stick around to the end for this week's headlines. Let's dive right in.
So, OpenAI just dropped a new macOS app specifically designed for what they're calling agentic coding. And this is fascinating because we're seeing a fundamental shift in how AI assists developers. This isn't just another autocomplete tool. We're talking about AI that can autonomously plan, write, test, and debug entire features.
Right, but what exactly makes this agentic versus something like GitHub Copilot? I mean, Copilot already writes code for me.
Great question. The key difference is autonomy and scope. Traditional AI coding assistants like Copilot are reactive. They respond to your prompts, complete your code snippets, maybe generate a function. But agentic systems, they can take a high-level requirement like build me a REST API for user authentication and actually plan out the entire architecture, write all the necessary files, set up the database schema, implement error handling, write tests, and even deploy it.
That sounds almost too good to be true. Are we really there yet?
Well, that's what OpenAI is claiming with this new macOS app. And here's what's interesting. They're not the first to make these claims. Cursor has been pushing this narrative hard, and Claude from Anthropic has been gaining serious traction among developers for its ability to handle complex, multi-file coding tasks. But OpenAI has a few advantages here.
Like what?
First, they have the GPT-4 infrastructure and the learnings from millions of developers using Copilot. Second, they're focusing specifically on macOS, which tells us something about their strategy. Mac developers tend to be early adopters, they're often working on cutting-edge projects, and, this is key, they're willing to pay for premium developer tools.
That's interesting. So they're essentially using the Mac developer community as a testing ground.
Exactly. And think about the implications here. If this actually works, if we have AI that can autonomously handle entire development workflows, we're looking at a fundamental shift in how software gets built. Platform engineers especially need to pay attention because this could change how we think about developer productivity, code review processes, security scanning, and even team composition.
But wait, let's talk about the elephant in the room, security. How do you trust code that's written entirely by an AI agent without human oversight?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's why I think we're still in the early stages, despite the hype. But here's what's fascinating. OpenAI is positioning this as a tool that works alongside existing development workflows, not replacing them entirely. The agent can write code, but you still have your existing CI/CD pipelines, your security scanners, your code review processes.
So it's more about accelerating development rather than replacing developers.
For now, yes, but the trajectory is clear. We're moving from AI as a coding assistant to AI as a coding colleague, and that has massive implications for platform teams who need to start thinking about how to integrate these agentic systems into their platform development platforms. Coming up, we'll dig into exactly how OpenAI's approach differs from competitors like Cursor and Claude, and why this macOS first strategy might be genius or a huge mistake.
So let's get technical here. What's actually different about OpenAI's implementation compared to what Cursor or Claude are doing?
From what we can gather, OpenAI is leveraging their latest GPT-4 Turbo model with some significant modifications for code generation. They're claiming context windows of up to 128,000 tokens, which means the AI can understand and work with entire code bases, not just individual files. Compare that to early Copilot, which had maybe 2,000 token context windows.
That's a massive difference. So it can actually understand how different parts of your application interact.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. They're using what they call multi-agent orchestration, essentially multiple specialized AI agents working together. You might have one agent that's specialized in understanding requirements, another that's great at system design, another for implementation, and another for testing.
That sounds similar to how Cursor structures their AI assistants.
Several categories. First, hallucinations. The AI might confidently write code that looks correct but has subtle bugs. Second, security vulnerabilities. These models weren't trained with security as a primary concern. Third, dependency hell. The AI might pull in packages or libraries that create maintenance nightmares. And fourth, inconsistent coding patterns that make the code base hard to maintain.
That's a lot of potential problems.
It is, but here's how platform teams can mitigate them. First, implement strict code review processes. Treat AI-generated code like you'd treat code from a junior developer. Second, invest in better testing infrastructure. If AI is writing more code faster, you need automated tests to catch issues. Third, set up security scanning as a mandatory gate. Tools like Snyk or GitHub security scanning become even more critical.
What about coding standards and architectural patterns?
This is where it gets interesting. You can actually use these tools to enforce standards, configure them with your team's style guides, architectural decisions, and best practices. The AI becomes a force multiplier for your platform team's opinions. Imagine every developer having an AI pair programmer that knows your company's specific patterns and requirements.
That's a different way of thinking about it. AI as a platform team's proxy.
Exactly. And here's what platform engineers should be doing right now. First, start experimenting personally. Use Claude, try Cursor, get on the waitlist for this OpenAI macOS app. You need hands-on experience to make informed decisions. Second, begin documenting your development patterns and practices in a way that AI can consume. Third, start thinking about how your CI/CD pipelines need to evolve to handle AI-generated code.
What about metrics? How do we measure if these tools are actually helping?
Great question. Traditional metrics like lines of code written become meaningless. Instead, focus on cycle time, how long from idea to production. Defect rates, is AI-generated code more or less buggy? And developer satisfaction, are your engineers spending more time on interesting problems versus boilerplate?
What's your take on the job market? Should developers be worried?
I think we're looking at a transformation, not a replacement. The developers who thrive will be those who learn to work with AI agents effectively. Think of it like the transition from assembly to high-level languages. We didn't need fewer programmers, we just built more ambitious things. The same will happen here.
So the skill set changes from writing code to directing AI agents.
Partially, yes, but also deeper skills become more important. System design, understanding business requirements, debugging complex interactions. The AI handles the implementation details, but humans still need to make the architectural decisions.
Any final advice for platform teams?
3 things. First, don't wait for perfect. Start experimenting now while these tools are still evolving. Second, focus on governance and guardrails. Your role shifts from providing tools to providing safe spaces for AI-assisted development. And third, invest in education. Your developers need to understand both the capabilities and limitations of these systems.
What should we watch for in the next 6 months?
I'm watching for 3 things. First, whether OpenAI's macOS app lives up to the Agentic coding hype, or if it's just a better Copilot. Second, how quickly competitors respond, especially Microsoft with their own Windows solution. And third, the first major security incident caused by AI-generated code. It's not if, but when, and how the industry responds will shape adoption.
That's sobering but realistic.
Look, we're at an inflection point. Agentic coding isn't just another developer tool. It's a fundamental shift in how software gets built. Platform engineers who understand this shift and adapt their platforms accordingly will provide massive value to their organizations. Those who ignore it risk being left behind.
It's an exciting time to be in platform engineering.
It really is. We get to shape how this technology gets integrated into real-world development workflows. That's both a huge responsibility and an incredible opportunity. Before we wrap up, let's catch up on this week's infrastructure news. There's a fascinating shift happening in enterprise desktop computing. The new stack is reporting that companies should seriously consider adopting immutable Linux distributions for their desktop environments. We're talking about systems where the core OS files can't be modified after installation.
That's interesting. What's driving this push? I mean, immutable systems have been popular in containers and servers, but desktops?
It's all about security and stability. With immutable desktops, malware can't modify system files, and updates are atomic. They either work completely or roll back. Plus, IT departments can manage thousands of identical desktop configurations without worrying about configuration drift.
Now, I wonder about user flexibility. How do developers install their tools?
Moving to cloud platforms. Red Hat just announced general availability for managed identity and workload identity on Microsoft Azure Red Hat OpenShift. This is huge for enterprise Kubernetes deployments.
Finally! No more managing service principals and credentials in your pods. Developers can just focus on writing code while the platform handles authentication to Azure services automatically.
Speaking of platforms, have you seen Octelium? Version 0.24 just dropped on GitHub, and it's positioning itself as a self-hosted alternative to basically every secure access tool out there. Teleport, Ngrok, Tailscale, Cloudflare Zero Trust.
That's ambitious. A single FOSS platform replacing all those commercial solutions. The Zero Trust architecture sounds solid, but I'd love to see how it handles the complexity of unifying all those different use cases.
AWS is making moves in GovCloud too. They've announced flexible cost allocation for AWS Network Firewall through Transit Gateway native attachments. Government agencies can now distribute their data processing costs more accurately across departments.
That's actually more significant than it sounds. Cost allocation in government IT is notoriously complex with all the compliance requirements.
And here's something that could change how we think about container orchestration. Cloud Native Now reports that Kubernetes is beginning work on pod, checkpoint, and restore functionality.
Finally! This has been a supercomputing staple for years. Imagine being able to snapshot a running workload, move it to different infrastructure, or restart it after maintenance without losing state.
The migration possibilities alone are game-changing. No more draining nodes and hoping your stateful applications recover properly.
Exactly. This could make Kubernetes much more attractive for HPC and scientific computing workloads.
That wraps up this week's news. That's our show for today.
If you found this valuable, please subscribe and share with a friend who'd appreciate it.
Drop us a comment with your thoughts on today's topic.
Links to everything we discussed are in the show notes.
And check out platform-engineering-playbook.com for more resources and guides. Until next time.